Welcome. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Church of Lincoln. I'm Peg Pelter, a member of the Board of Trustees. I do want to offer a special welcome to those of you who are attending for the first time. I hope that you will join us for coffee and conversation in the gallery following the service. The Board of Trustees will hold a discussion forum this Wednesday. We want to hear your thoughts on what our church wants to be in this post-pandemic world. Please join us at the gathering place at 6:30 on Wednesday. We need each of you to nominate your favorite local nonprofit organization for Share the Plate. There is only one more week before the deadline, and we have received very few nominations thus far. Email the church office and tell us why you are nominating this organization. Last but definitely not least, please join us tonight here at 7 p.m. to hear more of the fabulous guitar music from Haroya. Help me with your last name? Skamoto. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to hearing his music. We also want to celebrate when the system works. The Green Sanctuary, the building committee, and the Lincoln Unitarian Foundation, plus the Board of Trustees, with the very able assistance of Kurt Donaldson, has we have purchased some new electric high-efficiency heat pumps. Air sourced, that's where I was after. I couldn't read my own handwriting. Air source heat pumps will be installed this fall. So we should celebrate this and celebrate what it does for our earth. The last thing I want to mention is on May 4th, the Justice in Action event is happening at the Lancaster Event Center. It's in 11 days. If you want to hear more about it, talk to Judy. She'll be by the patio doors following the service. Oh, jeez. Yeah, May 4th is the Thursday. Okay, I'm out of here.
To be of the earth, writes John Seuss, is to know the restlessness of being a seed, the darkness of being planted, the struggle toward the light, the pain of growth into the light, the joy of bursting and bearing fruit, the love of being food for someone, the scattering of your seeds, the decay of the seasons, the mystery of death, and the miracle of birth. Welcome to the Unitarian Church of Lincoln. I am Christine Davis, a member of this congregation. My pronouns are she, her, hers. It is good to be with all of you here or tuning in this morning, and those of you viewing this later. Today, we celebrate Earth Day, a high, holy day for Unitarian Universalists. I am joined in the chancel by Becky Sate, former chair of Green Sanctuary for our church, and a longtime advocate in this congregation for action regarding climate change. I continue to learn from her and change because of her. The Unitarian Church of Lincoln aspires to be a loving community, uniting reason with spiritual exploration to transform ourselves and the world. we have a big vision here. And we know that creating a loving community begins with welcome. So, whether this is your first time here or your 500th, if you came here hopeful or heartbroken, whatever your age, gender identity, skin color, whomever you love, you are welcome here. As we enter into worship, take a moment to center yourself. Take a few deep breaths. And let us begin with Hiroya, our guest musician, who, as already has been mentioned, will be performing tonight at 7 as part of our Wayside Concert Series. Thus, our seating arrangement today with this open space where I hope he will be positioned.
Our chalice lighting words are from Eric Williams. There is light from the steady sun, the glowing moon, the flashing meteor, the twinkling stars, and the auroras dancing in the northern skies. Within you there is light, the same radiance that is in all creatures. May this small flame be a constant reminder to us of our true nature and our kinship with all beings.
In this Earth Day service, we'll hold two things in tension. what we know climate change has already brought into our lives, and how we might still respond to it. One of the most important things weighing in the balance is sitting in front of you, or beside you, or behind you, or maybe even in your lap, or maybe over there. Our kids, particularly their futures. Climate activist Greta Thunberg writes, "We live in a strange world where children must sacrifice their own education in order to protest against the destruction of their future. A world where people who have contributed the least to this crisis are the ones who are going to be affected the most." Thunberg has spent nearly half of her life presenting her case, desperate to prod us to act on behalf of humans younger than most of us. She is 20 years old. At twice Thunberg's age, Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson, a marine biologist and Black woman, admits to a certain level of exhaustion, yet believes we are in this moment where imagination is one of the most valuable things we can bring to the table. And a failure of imagination means a failure to consider the spectrum of futures that are available to us. We're not going to be able to take some sort of time machine backwards, she says, to a perfectly pristine planet when there's 8 billion or something people on the planet. But we can have any number of possible options. I know it is not a given that the outcome will be good, but I am completely enamored with the amount of possibility that's available to us, she concludes. Turns out Johnson wrote an essay for Thunberg's recent climate book, published last fall. And now Johnson is working on a book of her own that asks the question, which we borrowed for today's service title: what if we get it right?
Part of getting it right is owning what we've gotten wrong and then doing something about it. As Unitarian Universalists, we promote respect for the interdependent web of life, of which we are part. Do we live as if we believe this? What do you think of when you hear the words web of all existence? Does it include animals, plants, soil, water? How about the word interdependent? Do you know who or what depends on you? Do you realize who or what you depend on? Our science, industry, and our religious roots rely on an idea about intelligence being something that we have. It ignores the many different ways of being that more than human world offers and what they might teach us, even slime molds. And we'll talk more about those in a little while. We need fresh ways of seeing, well, everything. We need to light our fires of imagination and love more deeply because we work hardest for what we love, for who we love. Look around you, look at the tables. And then consider these words of Thunberg, delivered at the age of 15. When you think about the future today, you don't think beyond the year 2050. By then, I will, in the best case, not even have lived half my life. What happens next? In the year 2078, I will celebrate my 75th birthday. If I have children or grandchildren, maybe they will spend that day with me. Maybe they will ask me about you, the people who were around back in 2018. Maybe they will ask why you didn't do anything while there was still time to act. What we do or don't do right now will affect my entire life and the lives of my children and grandchildren. What we do or don't do right now, me and my generation can't undo in the future. We would like to dedicate our opening hymn to Greta Thunberg and all the young activists, past, present, and future, who are doing such inspiring work, and may we join them with our open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. Our first hymn is number 112, Do You Hear? Please rise as you are able.
If anyone would like to come forward for the story so you can see the pictures, you're welcome to do so now. Or some of them are having way too much fun playing with slime over there. Our story today is called Granddad's Prayer for the Earth by Douglas Wood and illustrated by P.J. Lynch, and it has been adapted.
When I was a little kid, my granddad was my best friend. Being with him made the world seem just right. Granddad and I liked to go for walks in the woods together. We didn't go very far, or very fast, or very straight for that matter. While we walked, I would ask him questions about things I wasn't sure of. Why is it, Granddad? And what if? And does it ever? One day I asked him about prayers. For a long time, he didn't say anything until we came to the tallest tree in the forest. And then he answered with a question.
Did you know, boy, that trees pray?
I listened closely, but I couldn't hear them.
See how they reach for the sky? They reach and reach for clouds and sun and moon and stars. That's what a prayer is. Reaching.
I thought about the trees and kept listening for them, and while I thought, I sat down on an old mossy rock.
Rocks pray too. Pebbles and boulders and old weathered hills. They are still and silent, and those are two important ways to pray too.
I thought hard about the rocks. I picked up a pebble and I stuck it in my pocket. We walked a little farther and came to a small stream. The water splashed and sparkled, and tiny fish hovered in the shadows. Do streams pray too, Granddad?
Streams pray too, and lakes and rivers and waters of all kinds. Sometimes they pray silently, like the rocks. They lie still and calm, reflecting clouds or birds or sunsets or the first evening star. Sometimes they pray with movement, flowing across the face of the earth, giving themselves to the ocean, giving themselves to the sky, and beginning their journey all over again. Sometimes waters pray with laughter, chuckling to their friends and the rocks, and dancing and leaping into the air and falling back again. The tall grass prays as it waves its arms beneath the sky, and flowers pray as they breathe their sweetness into the air. The wind prays as it whispers and moans and sighs. It's saying a prayer and singing a hymn at the same time. All the beings of the world pray as they slip through the forest or sparkle in the water, as they climb mountainsides or soar into clouds or burrow into the earth. Each living thing gives its life to the beauty of all life, and that gift is its prayer.
Then we got quiet, my granddad and I. He was watching something far away, and I was thinking about all he said about rocks and trees and grass and birds and flowers. Finally, I asked him to tell me about the prayers of people. Granddad smiled.
Bending down to smell a flower can be a prayer. Watching quietly the sunrise, feeling the slow turning of the earth, and saying hello to a new day is one of the oldest prayers. Standing in a snowy woods on a winter day and watching your breath become part of the breath of the world is a way to pray. Making music or painting a picture can be a prayer. Holding hands around the table with family and friends, remembering all that holds us together, and giving thanks is one of the greatest prayers.
I had one last question. Are prayers answered, Granddad? Granddad thought for a moment before he spoke.
Most prayers aren't really questions. And if we listen very closely, a prayer is often its own answer. Like the trees and winds and waters, we pray because we are here, not to change the world, but to change ourselves. Because it is when we change ourselves that we change the world. That is the end of our story.
Each week, we take up a collection to support the work of this church and our partners in the community. We do this because just as we all grow from our participation in this community, we all give back through our time, our talent, and our treasure. To give, you can text UC Lincoln and the amount to 73256. That's UCL Lincoln and the amount to 73256. The offering will now be gratefully received while we listen to some more beautiful music. This is the time in our service that we join together in community to mark the moments of our lives. We share our joys, our sorrows, the events that mark our steps and stops along our way. The threads of sorrow and joy are part of the fabric of our lives. When we share them, our joys grow and we feel comforted in our sorrows. If you are online, I invite you to type into the chat your name or the name of another in sorrow. And for those of us gathered here together, please speak into this space your name or another that you wish to be remembered in sorrow or concern. Rita and Aaron. Kira. Sandy and Bill. Okay. We may have some delayed response on the chat. So now, please type into the chat your name or the name of another in joy. And for those of us in the room, please speak it into the space. Sarah and Sabrina have a new baby. Anita. Happy birthday to Emily Cameron Chattil. Becky calls this Fox News. They have a Fox family in their backyard. Margaret. The sound of joyful children and everything we may accomplish to make their lives better. The wonderful work of the auction committee, and which ends at noon today. So get on there online if you haven't.
Still gonna be online, but a joy for the A Street Band on third Thursday. It was a wonderful concert. So make sure you come out and see A Street Band the next time. I just applaud.
Okay. Oh yes, and joy for Hiroya's music and the fact that we get to stretch it out and enjoy it at 7 o'clock tonight. Oh, and there's one other joy I have from Kim Zeman. Her oldest daughter, Aubrey, was one of the top students at the state science fair, and she is going to nationals. Okay. Sue Oliver has added a sorrow. I'm going to just look if you don't mind. To pray for our friend Bev, who has cancer. Thank you all for your presence. Our hymn is 134. Our world is one world. Please rise as you are able.
one world, our world. That's all we've got as far as we know. Not long ago, Christine and I did a Thursday service just about prayer, and we talked and listened to the way music or a poem or sitting quietly can be prayers. This morning, Granddad's prayers of the earth gave us a chance to consider more than human ways of praying. Had you ever thought of something like a rock or a river praying? Both Christine and I really like the writing of a scientist named Robin Wall Kimmerer. She studies plants, and she is a citizen of the Potawatomi Nation. She is trying hard to learn to speak the language of her people. She doesn't have much time to learn it because many of the people who speak it are very old. She has to learn before she misses the chance. The words we use show our relationship with our world. Here's what I mean. In Potawatomi, if someone asks, "What is this?" the answer would be, "Chalice, it is." But if they want to ask about this, they would say, "Who is this?" And the response would be, "Apple, this being is." Kimmerer's people would never call an apple it, or even a rock it, because they consider these things to be alive. Indigenous cultures have held this understanding of what is alive for a long time. If we thought this way, would we make different decisions? Would we show different respect and care toward the beings with whom we share our planet? What if we really acted as if air, water, soil, and rock were beings and not things? What isn't alive then? According to the Potawatomi and many other indigenous people, the only things that are not alive are things humans have made. And now I have another question for you. Are you intelligent? Of course you are. But what does that mean, to be intelligent? Those of you who have a pet of some kind, do you think they're intelligent? Are they intelligent the same way you are? Can you learn from them? Have you ever thought about a marigold or mold being smart? What about this? There are 900 kinds of slime mold. I'm not sure those are included. They often live in the soil. They aren't plants. They aren't animals. They aren't fungi. Yeah, I don't quite get what they are either. They only have a single cell, but they can form themselves into threads. And they really like oat flakes and dislike light. Designers and planners spent many years laying out an efficient transportation network to get to the cities around Tokyo, Japan. Scientists had another idea. They took a big map of that area, put oat flakes on the cities the planners had wanted to connect, and placed lights where mountains and lakes were, since these had to be avoided. At first, the slime mold spread itself all over the map, but after a few hours, it put its threads in a network very much like what the designers had planned, and even had stronger threads connecting central hubs. It took the slime mold about a day to do this. Think about that for a while. Okay, kids, you guys who are playing with slime, I have a challenge for you. Think a little like the Potawatomi. Make something that's in the world that you are not used to thinking is alive. Maybe a dead leaf on the ground, a river rock, an animal's burrow. Then use your imagination. What do you think it would be like to be what you've made? James Bridle, the author of a book called Ways of Being, says that when we try to measure intelligence or communication by what humans do, we limit our understanding of our world. He says we need to pay attention, close attention, to more than humans, and to be open to what they can teach us. And we need to think of ourselves as just one part of a whole that we completely depend on. Our hymn is number 175, We Celebrate the Web of Life. Please rise as you are able.
James Bridle, the author Becky just mentioned, has some other interesting ideas. He talks about the importance of thinking like an ecologist, keeping in our minds the unbreakable cords that tie everything together. Doesn't that sound like our interdependent web? What would happen if we really acted as though what matters most is relationships rather than things or individual people? Ideas like this got another scientist interested. Suzanne Simard grew up in British Columbia, Canada, in a family of foresters and spent much of her childhood playing among the trees. As an adult, she left work as a logger to do research showing the importance of diversity in a healthy forest. That research was not accepted for many, many years. But now, what she has discovered has been called, get ready for it, the Wood Wide Web. She found that the trees are linked by a vast underground network of fungi, and that they use this network to share nutrients based on need and to signal danger. At the center of this network is often a mother tree. Quote, some of the things that these mother trees do absolutely mirror the intelligence that human beings possess in mothering, parenting, and eldering, passing wisdom on, aiding others through sickness and distress. Forests are really dynamic places, just like our own societies. Now, with the help of indigenous tribes, she is studying how salmon help the forests of the Northwest. In the past, huge numbers of salmon traveled up the rivers in that part of the United States to lay their eggs and eventually die. If you haven't tuned into the YouTube videos of the bears catching salmon or the live cam, it's something. Bears eat the salmon. Their droppings fertilize the forests with minerals from the salmon. But salmon are becoming fewer now. what will happen to the forests? Lots of things can harm a forest. Anna Bodkin in the magazine Orion wrote, Dutch elm disease hitchhiked to the United States from Europe and was first identified in Ohio almost a century ago. Within decades, it spread with the help of bark beetles to both coasts and killed millions of trees. But by some miracle, the woodland's elms were spared until all of a sudden they weren't. Why now? No one seems to know. What is certain is that the changing climate has warped the travel paths, breeding cycles, and population dynamics of the bark beetle that spreads tree diseases. Everything depends on everything else. This is what the interdependent web of all existence is. When one thing is disrupted, other things are disrupted too. It might not happen all at once, but it happens. And humans cause a lot of disruption. Anna Bodkin adds, every day spells a new normal, requires our hearts to learn an endless vocabulary. The tree speaks no language I can translate. And I say, maybe that means we need to start speaking tree and river and bird rather than trying to translate it into human speak. Perhaps if we did, we would stop thinking of trees and rivers and birds as merely something to be used. Kimmerer writes, I have heard our elders give advice like, you should go among the standing people, the trees. Or go spend some time with those beaver people. Elders remind us of the capacity of others as our teachers, as holders of knowledge, as guides. She's speaking of the elders in the Potawatomi Nation. Imagine walking through a richly inhabited world of birch people, bear people, rock people, beings we think of and therefore speak of as worthy of our respect, of inclusion in a peopled world. You can see why Becky and I like Robin Wall Kimmerer. Remember earlier when Becky said that part of getting it right is owning what we have gotten wrong and then doing something about it. So what have we been doing here at our church? What are we willing to do to help even more? We became what the Unitarian Universalist Association calls a certified green sanctuary in the fall of 2012. It took us 7 years to learn what needed to be done and to do all those things. When we remodeled our church, we included green features that made our carbon footprint smaller. And we are rightfully proud of that. And though I've been scooped, I'm going to say it. Breaking news. Our board just approved replacement of the 30-year-old gas furnaces that serve the sanctuary, and the gallery, actually, with electric heat pumps and backup electric furnaces. A huge thanks goes to Kurt Donaldson, who did a great deal of number crunching on this and determined, despite being a longtime champion, that an additional geothermal system would not serve us well. Just a note, as our gas-fired furnace, appliances, and vehicles are replaced, that's all of you in the room, as you replace them, each of us needs to go electric, if at all possible. And there's financial help available for that transition, so you could talk to anybody who cares about this stuff. The Green Sanctuary program has changed 7 times since it was begun in 1989, and the program is now called Green Sanctuary 2030, Mobilizing for Climate Justice, and offers a roadmap for congregations to face what we now recognize as a crisis. It's a very different program. And if we choose to meet the requirements of Green Sanctuary 2030, we would have to identify indigenous peoples whose lands we occupy, research historic moments of systemic oppression in our area. We would have to complete projects that reduce the causes of climate change, like our solar panels and geothermal heating. We'd have to make goals and actions for long-term climate work and work closely with frontline communities in fighting climate change. Becky has worked on our Green Sanctuary program since the beginning and is impressed with what they're requiring for Green Sanctuary 2030. It reflects our knowledge that our climate work must be broad and deep and urgent. We started strengthening relationships with Indigenous friends and relatives last summer. And this spring, we have spent many hours learning and listening to ways that systemic injustice impacts them and others in our community. The rest of the hard work lies ahead of us. It will take all of us sailing in our blue boat together. Our children, along with Judy Hart and Jack Wilson, have created this special take on our beloved hymn, number 1064, Blue Boat Home. Julie, begin wrangling. We hope the children are going to assist us in singing this song. So let's let them gather a little bit before we start the song.
Below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plain, far away from the rolling ocean.
So many thanks to all who made that possible. The most recent report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change came out in March. It told us what we know, that the crisis of climate change is moving faster than scientists predicted, and that no one is doing enough to meet the challenge. But it also pointed out that if we get this right, if we act with urgency, our world will be a better, a more just place to live. We have most of the solutions we need. We just have to do them. So more people need to get energized and find where they fit. How can that happen? In her book, Rooted: Life at the Crossroads of Science, Nature, and Spirit, Linda Lynn Haupt writes, "We know there is more than green gardens, nature calendars, recycling, a summer hike in the woods, and an occasional camping trip. We know there is a wilder earth, and upon it, within it, a wilder, more authentic human self. We know the need of each for the other. We seek something nameless, beautiful, waiting, wanting, something that will change us so thoroughly that our cozy slippers will not fit. We know the path is invisible, the terrain uneasy, the weather uncertain, our minds unprepared. We know we are not able to say to the earth in one fell swoop or any swoop at all, that our work here will fall short even as there is no alternative but to act. Entangled with every creature, tree, stone, and human, above and below the soil, with little but our wild instincts to guide us. I believe that it is important to claim wildness as a state of mind and a way of being. Wild hearts breed love and protection of a wild earth." In the beginning of the service, we talked about Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson, the one who was working on the book titled What If We Get This Right? She said in an interview with Krista Tippett, "The idea that we can be motivated by love, I think it's just the most delightful way to approach something that is the work of our lifetimes. To do it thinking not just about the love of other species, but the love of other humans, the love of ecosystems, the love of places. For me, it's all about how we build the future that we want to live in, where there's a place for us and the people and the things that we love." This is something that the Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh wrote about in Love Letters to the Earth. He said we must fall in love with the earth for us to be concerned for her welfare, the same way falling in love with a person causes us to be concerned for the beloved. And Ayanna Johnson puts it this way: "We saunter, we lollygag, we mosey away from the brink instead of running full tilt toward a livable climate future and towards what we can see. If all it looks like to you is a blank canvas, then it's sort of insane to run full tilt toward that." She explains, "When we don't spend enough time talking about the future we could have and engaging our imaginations and envisioning a world where we actually implement all these climate solutions we already have, then why would you run towards? I think as a society, we just have a lot of work to do in filling in those details for each other, so it feels less scary to run toward this future. So, let's fill in those details for each other, day by day, week by week, month by month, and run toward a future we love, one that people like Greta Thunberg and the children of our congregation will be grateful to live in."
Our closing words are from a poem by Aisha Siddiqa titled, "On another panel about climate, they asked me to sell the future, and all I've got is a love poem." What if the future is soft and revolution is so kind that there is no end to us in sight? Whole cities breathe and bad luck is bested by a promise to the leaves. If the future leaves without us, the silence that will follow will be an unspeakable nothing. What if we convince her to stay? How rare and beautiful it is that we exist. What if we stun existence one more time? Love is still the only revenge.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Go in peace.